All right. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So we are to actually writing the purchase agreement. So we want to look at the elements of writing the purchase agreement. So let's look at the elements of writing the purchase agreement. All right. Please make sure that you have a checklist to write your offer. Sometimes you don't get a second chance to come back and write the offer correctly or fill in any holes because the market is moving so quickly. And many real estate listing agents are reviewing, they may be reviewing 5, 10, 15 offers. You know, I heard the most offers that I have heard that a real estate agent had come in on a property, and I can't tell you why it got to this extent, was 100 offers. Now, can you imagine being a listing agent and you're vetting 100 offers? So there was no offer that the seller could have accepted in the first 5, the first 10, the first 15, the first 20, the first 25. So none of those made the cut. So again, the market moves very quickly. So make sure that you have a checklist. That way you make sure that you dotted all of the I's, crossed all of the T's as well. All right. So now remember, you're not the one that's coming up with the sales price. You're consulting with your buyer client to arrive, and it says here, at the most logical offering price based on the CMA and some of the items below. Now, we know that many properties are even selling above what the CMAs, the comparative market analysis, are. So, you know, it's up to that buyer to decide how far they're willing to go. The other thing, make sure that you check the MLS to make sure that the listing agent has uploaded their disclosures before you submit the purchase agreement. Because in the state of Maryland, remember, there's something called a property disclosure disclaimer statement. All sellers have to provide a property disclosure or a disclaimer statement. Let's say they provide a disclosure. As the agent for the buyer, you want to make sure that you review that and make sure that the buyer reviews it as well. Don't take for granted just because there is a disclosure that is not disclosing something that could be troublesome. Suppose they are disclosing that the basement gets wet when it rains or that the roof leaks. You want to review those things. Suppose they've made or put on an addition to the house and they didn't use a licensed contractor to do that. Would that buyer want to know about that? More than likely, yes. More than likely, they would. So always review the property disclosure disclaimer statement to see if there's any red flags. All right. All right. It says conveyances. Consider what times the home will transfer and or convey to the buyer. Typically, attached fixtures stay and movable items go with the seller. In some areas, the seller's disclosure statement will specify which items convey. These items are up for negotiation. In different parts of the country, there's some areas where a person's appliances don't convey. They can take their appliances. Generally in this area, we don't generally see that, okay? Also, make sure that you get a feel for, do these things convey? Is there anything that the seller is saying does not convey? If there's anything that the seller is agreeing to leave behind for the buyer, please get it in writing, not verbal, in writing. You'll be surprised at what can break a transaction. One of the biggest ones that you typically see when it's not specified that can break a transaction is washers and dryers. Washers and dryers. Well, when the buyer looked at the house, the washer and the dryer was there. And they didn't see anything that says that it does not convey. Now, there is an actual form that spells out what conveys and what doesn't convey. Make sure someone is looking at that and reviewing that. And if you were in a house and you see something on that checklist and they don't have it marked as conveyed, you want to make sure that you ask about that. You can't just take for granted that it does convey. Okay. All right. Let's see, where else are we at this point? We talked about the conveyance, disclosure statements, earnest money. Here's a big one. The buyer makes a deposit to the seller. And basically, this is to show good faith that they want to move forward with this transaction. The earnest money is typically deposited in an escrow account. Now, in some cases, some brokers want their earnest money deposit deposited with the title company that the buyer is going to use to close. I'm not saying across the board. Some brokers still do open an escrow account and have it deposited with the broker. Please check with your broker to see what your broker's policies are. Also, when you're receiving an earnest money deposit, make sure you look at the check to make sure the check is not post-dated. Because sometimes someone will say, well, yeah, we're going to give you the check for this, and I get paid next Friday, so this is going to be good on next Friday. If that offer is presented to the seller isn't anticipating that that check isn't good, and the seller is looking at a copy of the check. They're not typically paying real attention to that. So the funds need to be good funds, good funds. Also, never take cash from anyone for earnest money deposit. Do not take cash. I've had to say to people to go to 7-Eleven, get a money order. You're going to need to write a check, but do not take cash, because then it can turn into your word against their word. Well, you know, we gave her $7,000 and she's saying that we only gave her 4. We gave her 7. Now it's their word against your word. Not a situation that you want to be in. Okay, so be careful with EMD deposits. All right, the other thing too, it says here, it says determine the amount that would be acceptable to both the buyer and the seller. In many markets, 2 to 3% of the purchase price is normal. Check with your team leader or broker to learn how much earnest money deposit is handled. Do the same for option money. All right. So what we're seeing now, with the market being so competitive, and it's right now really being heavily seller driven, especially since we have the lowest amount of inventory that we've seen in decades, really. EMD deposits are a lot higher than they used to be. It's not uncommon now to have earnest money deposits of $10,000, $25,000, or even more, because many buyers are attempting to impress the seller and to have their offer accepted. Okay, so make sure for EMD deposits that you're looking at the check, not taking post-dated checks. You need good funds. All right. Another tip, if for any reason a person gives you an EMD deposit and the check bounces, you must inform the listing agent so that that seller knows that that check bounced. Because now you're waiting down the road for the check to be replaced. Suppose it's never replaced. Now we've got issues. All right. So make sure you disclose that. And if for any reason it bounces, talk to your broker, but I would probably make sure that I'm getting certified funds the next time around so that that's no longer an issue. All right. In the market that we're in, you see the next item on the checklist. It says time for seller acceptance. Many agents are actually putting a date in the offer in terms of the seller to respond to the offer. Now, just because that's in there, I'm not going to say to you that that's going to happen. Because in some cases, sellers have 5, 10 offers to select from. However, you don't want your offer what they call shopped if you can avoid it, where the seller's just sitting back, waiting to get some more offers, waiting to play them off against your offer. We're seeing more of that because some agents are saying, all offers will be reviewed after Thanksgiving or after the Christmas holidays. Now I'm exaggerating here, but many agents have longer time frames before the offers are being presented. Okay, so you may want to, say that there's some urgency here and that they could possibly have that offer withdrawn if it's not being reviewed in a timely manner. All right. It says financing terms. Make sure the financing terms would be agreeable to your buyer and to the seller. If you can find that out from the listing agent up front, that goes a long way in putting your offer in the running. Okay. All right. So have the checklist for your offers and make sure that you present anytime you write a purchase agreement. Do not linger, do not procrastinate on submitting it. The market is moving extremely quickly. So please make sure you get it in. There's nothing worse than writing the purchase agreement and you wait a day and something happens and that buyer then finds out that the offer wasn't presented timely and they've lost that property. Doesn't mean that their offer would have been the one accepted. However, you've got to remember people are emotionally attached to these properties. They're emotionally attached to getting that particular home. All right. All right. Next thing, let's look at creating the offer in Command. Now, I'm not going to get deep into this because this is not Command 101. We're not doing that. We're talking about actually make and present the offers. All right. But you do want to create an opportunity and put that into Command so that you have track of the offer, you know what's going on with it as well, and you're taking it through the phases to closing. Okay, so make sure that you are using Command and make sure you're watching the videos, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. All right, so it says, I'm going to just go to cover letter. All right, give the offer a personal touch, and it says, and help your buyers and sellers in themselves. This is one thing, this Ignite material is dated from 2020. And as I was looking at this, I would be extremely careful with any cover letters that you do. I think I would just really stick to the facts in terms of what the offer is. There was something recently, Oregon, the state of Oregon, is the first state that actually has outlawed what they call sweetheart letters or love letters. And this is where you're really pumping up that particular buyer and, oh, they love the property and they see that you are a gardener and they are also a gardener and they see the exotic shrubberies you have and they want to continue your legacy. And if you would allow them the honor of being able to purchase this home, they'll name some of the shrubs after you. You can come back and get a cutting of the shrubs. I mean, people are pumping this up. So talk to your broker about this because many brokerages now are not allowing this to play on the heartstrings of sellers. And part of the reason is, depending on how this is done, sometimes it could be viewed as discriminatory. So be really, really careful with this. Talk to your broker. So I would just stick to the facts of what the offer price is, the date that they want to go to closing, the type of financing that they're going to put in place, maybe who the title company is, what their EMD is, that type of thing. I'd stick to the facts. I don't know if I'm going to get in that buttering up the seller in terms of please accept this because the buyers want this, this, and this, and this is who they are, and they have 2 kids, and they see that you were in the military and they served in the military as well. And I'd be careful, okay? That's all I'm gonna say on those cover letters. Talk to your broker because this is something that, oh, and also if you wanna take a look at that, as real estate agents belonging to Bright MLS, you can actually receive Inman News free. Inman, I-N-M-A-N. I would definitely make sure that you start reading Inman News. It's an electronic real estate magazine. It's the premier real estate magazine in the industry today. And Brad Inman was the founder of Inman News. And many of the prominent CEOs are interviewed in Inman News. It gives you the latest trends in the market. And actually, this is where I saw that Oregon was the first state to make love letters illegal. So it started with Oregon, and it will probably continue to come across the country. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have. Okay. Next up, the role play buyer offer objections. Now, when you say buyer offer objections, you may have numerous objections to overcome just in terms of getting a buyer to agree to make an offer on a property. There's some people that are afraid of where the market may be headed. There's some people that are first-time home buyers, and now they're looking at, well, this may be the biggest payment that we've ever had in our lives. Maybe we need to save a little bit more money. And sometimes when you hear that, and you may ask them, well, how much more are you guys planning on saving? Well, we're going to save another $3,000. We're going to save another $5,000. Well, for every $1,000 that someone spends on the property, it's about $7.50. So now you're talking about saving or another $5,000. If you did that times 7, that's about $35 a month, $40 a month. So suppose prices go up beyond that. So really, you may lose something trying to save another $3,000, $5,000. Okay. So another one too is sometimes people have never owned a home before. They're not used to the maintenance, to the upkeep, and that can be a scary thing when you've been a renter and everything has been taken care of for you. Now you're responsible for everything. So that can be a huge step for people. So I would say you want to work on your scripting and your dialogues and have scripts for these situations, these scenarios that I'm describing to you. Have scripting for someone who is just afraid. Have scripting for someone that they want to save another day. We're going to wait until the spring market. Have a script for that. No one has a crystal ball. We don't know whether prices will dip, will prices be higher? And especially, well, here's the famous one. Well, you know, and you're going to hear a lot of this. And this is a script that I would say you really want to practice for right now. If you haven't already started hearing this particular one, is we want to wait until after the holidays. If you haven't started to hear that one, believe me, you're going to hear that one hot and heavy in the next few days. We want to wait until after the holidays. Be prepared for that script. Practice, role play, and rehearse that script. Okay. All right. We're seeing a little softening in the market right now. So one of the things you may want to let a buyer know, you know what? The real estate market was just so, oh man, it was just so overheated in the months of June, July. What I'm starting to see that buyers are getting some better opportunities right now. And I'm sure that that's what you guys would want as well. Is that right? Yes. I'm even seeing some cases where buyers are actually receiving some closing help from some sellers. Now, we haven't found a property for you, so it's a case-by-case individual basis. However, this is the best time in the marketplace because seasonally adjusted, we're seeing homes stay on the market a little bit longer. We're seeing sellers offering some concessions. We're seeing some sellers not going with everything being sold as is. So I would love to be able to help you guys get an opportunity just like that. That is what you want, isn't it? Yes. Okay. So the only way for us to make that happen is we need to put pen to paper and we need to be out looking. Make sense? Yes. Okay. All right. So that's to help move someone along. Now, I would recommend that you have a script book in Ignite. But what I'm going to do right here, and we have folks on, is I want you, because I'm not going to break people out in the rooms right now. What I'm going to do, because it is the holiday weekend and I don't want to keep people on long, and I appreciate you guys getting on tonight as well. I want you to practice. I want you to hear yourself handling the objection. We want to wait until after the holidays. I want you to practice this. I want you to hear yourself handling that. So right now, I'm throwing that objection out to everyone that's on the Zoom tonight. Well, you know, I really appreciate you wanting to work with me. And yes, we do want to buy a home, but you know what? You know, the time has already changed and it's already gotten dark, you know, in the evening. And, you know, you're a great agent, but I think what we're going to do is we're just going to wait until after the holidays, and we may do something in the spring market, probably like in April. So get back to me then. So I want you to practice. How would you handle that objection? We want to wait until after the holidays. And I don't mind role playing that with anyone that's on. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to role play that if she's up for it, because she doesn't know that she was going to be helping to role play this objection. And guess who that person is? She's got some glasses. Her name starts with a G. And she's putting her hand up to her face right now. So guess what? It's you, Gemma. Now, I'm going to give you the easy part. You can be the prospect. How about that? Is that cool? All right, I'll do the heavy lifting. All right, I've been talking to you about purchasing a home, and you do want to purchase. So I wish I would have brought my little bell, but I'm going to ring you up. So here we go. You're the prospect. I'm the agent. And here we go. So ring, 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 ring.
Hello.
Hello, Gemma.
Hi. Who's calling,
Hi,
please?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. This is Tyrone over at KWPP.
Oh,
Look,
hi, Tyrone.
hey, look, just giving you a quick ring because I wanted to check with you because I know you said you guys were interested in home ownership, and I wanted to see where you are in the process and how I could help you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But because it's starting to get so close to the to the holidays, I think I just want to revisit that sometime early next year, or maybe springtime.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just
Well,
don't want people running in, I just don't have the time right now to do all of that.
okay. I can certainly appreciate that, Gemma. And thanks for being so transparent with me and sharing that with me. Let me ask you this because I want to make sure that I was clear on the original reason of why you guys were thinking about home ownership. What was the original reason, Gemma?
Well, we do live in a townhouse. We live in a townhouse, and we have two small children. My family's growing, and we really need more space. So I'd like to move into a single family home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Okay.
my main reason for moving.
Okay. Well, you know, I don't know if you're aware of this, but what I'm seeing in the marketplace, and having been in real estate and watched the trends in the market, many sellers are really offering concessions this time of year because we're starting to see a softening in the market right now. And there are some opportunities where sellers are offering, in some cases, closing help. They're actually allowing buyers to be able to do home inspections. And in some cases, sellers are actually making repairs. If there was an opportunity that there was a home out there that met your family's criteria and it fell within a purchase price that was acceptable to you, would it be okay if I let you know about that?
Oh, sure, I'd be more than happy to listen to that, but that's not really what I've been hearing. I've been hearing it's a seller's market, but I just don't know if it really is a seller's market. I don't know how the interest rates are going. I don't know if this is a good time, but if you were to do some research and get back to me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you know, I really appreciate what you're saying, Gemma, because what it sounds like you're saying is that a good decision is only as good as the facts. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So in order for you to make the best decision, then you would probably need the best facts. Is that right, Gemma?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And once you saw the best facts, then you would be in a position to make a decision. Is that right?
Of course, if it would benefit me, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, here's what I'd like to do because I pride myself as the local real estate economist of choice for my clients, and I'm constantly reviewing the facts on a daily basis. That's one of the first things that I do every morning when I wake up. I go into the MLS or the multiple listing service, which is our realtor database, and I search the facts for my clients to help them make the best decisions for them and their families. And that's certainly what you want, isn't it?
Absolutely. I definitely would want an advocate, someone that's knowledgeable. And you sounds like you sound like you really know what you're talking about. So yes,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you. That's a real compliment. So why don't I do this, and I don't mind. Why don't I go ahead? I'm going to do some research for you. And I want to make sure, since you said a good decision is only as good as the facts, I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to review the facts and then make a decision whether you feel you want to move forward or whether you want to stay in place. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's get together, say tomorrow between maybe say 10 and 12, or would tomorrow between 5 and 7 be better for you so that you could look at the facts?
I'll say 5 to 7. That would work.
Okay, great. Are there any other decision makers that would need to look at the facts as well?
Yes, my husband. And I'll mention this call to him when he gets home later and we'll talk it through and I'll text you or call you to confirm our appointment for tomorrow.
Okay, beautiful. And last question, what is it that you would want to make sure that you see tomorrow that would prevent you from missing our appointment?
Well, a good price point. I'm looking to spend no more than $400,000.
Okay, so
And
that's a
yeah, you
I'm sorry.
mentioned seller help and inspections and all of that. So
Okay.
I'm just really looking for a very good deal.
Okay, so that's a priority for you then.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll take a note of that. I've just written that down, so I look forward to meeting with you and your husband tomorrow. And you gave me the time, and I will see you then. And it was really great speaking with you, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. And now you have me thinking about buying a home when I was looking at next year. So let's make it happen. Thank you so much for the call.
You're quite welcome. Have a
Have a good
wonderful day.
evening.
Okay, so
Okay,
we just did a little, thank you, Gemma.
sure.
So we just did a little role play. And now I'm not saying that she's going to buy a home. What was important though was that I do have an appointment with her. So I do have an opportunity. And it went from basically, she said no from the beginning of the call. So it went from no to an appointment, which could be a maybe. So I'd rather have a maybe than a no. Now, when I show up tomorrow with her and her husband and we go through a needs analysis, I'll have a better feel because she shared with me some information over the phone. Okay. So I hope that that made sense. Now, any feedback, just anybody, just any feedback, you guys can unmute and let's just debrief on it a little bit. Just anybody, any feedback around that conversation of someone that wanted to wait. because you're definitely going to have that situation. If you haven't already had it, I can assure you, you're going to get that. So who'd like to share? Anybody? Just unmute and just share, because we're on here all to grow. So let's grow together. Let's grow together. I know somebody has something. Are you using these scripts and dialogues yourself? Why is everyone so quiet tonight?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So the question is, she said she needed to consult with her husband, or she's going to talk to her husband. Now, what if, she speaks to the husband and then it comes back like, you know what, I told you, honey, this is not the perfect time. And then, she comes back and wants to back out again. Are you going to use?
Sometimes that happens. That could happen because she's now translating what you may have said as an agent to her husband. And sometimes things don't translate well. Sometimes it's not exactly what you may have said. However, the main thing that I want to do is to get that appointment with both of them. I want to get that appointment. Well, I can certainly appreciate that. And I want to thank you for actually speaking with your husband. But here's what I'd like to do. I know that this is a major decision for you guys. Wouldn't you agree? What's the answer going to be? What's the answer going to be?
Yes.
Okay. So to make this big of a decision, you're not going to make it just based on feelings. You're going to make it off of facts. Is that right? Yes.
Correct.
So why don't we just go ahead and keep our scheduled appointments so that I can show you the facts and leave those facts with you. And then you guys can make the decision of whether you want to move forward. Does that make sense? Is that fair enough? Those are all tie downs. So everything that I'm saying is scripted. This is script. So everything that I'm saying to you is scripted. So thanks for that objection. Does that help a little bit?
It does.
Okay. Anybody had anything else that they wanted to share around this? I want to wait. Let me just say this now. Some agents get stopped immediately when someone says, I want to wait. The main thing that you want to make sure that you do when someone says that they want to wait is this. Okay, so you said that you wanted to wait. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, I can certainly appreciate that. I'm not going to argue with the person. I'm not going to get in a back and forth. I'm not going to launch into why they shouldn't wait. I can certainly appreciate that. Just out of curiosity, what's causing you to wait? All right, so I can appreciate that. So I'm in alignment with you. I can appreciate that. But I've got to know why you want to wait. That's one of the oldest objections in selling is I want to wait. What's a famous one that most of us always use if we are in a store, especially like a retail store, department store, something like that. And the salesperson comes over to you and says, may I help you? And what do we say? I'm just looking, just looking. And then the salesperson goes away, right? That's a standard objection. So a salesperson would need to know how to overcome that possible objection. So somebody just say to me, I'm just looking. Anybody, I don't care. Just say, I'm just looking.
I'm just looking.
Okay, I can certainly appreciate that. Just out of curiosity, have you shopped with us before?
No.
Wow, that's interesting because actually we have promotions for first-time shoppers with us that are very, very attractive. And should you decide to purchase here, I'd like to let you know about that. Would that be okay? You might say
Yeah, that
yes, you may
sounds
say
good.
no. Okay. Now, somebody else asked me again, have you shopped here before? And then say yes. Have you shopped here before? Anybody say yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay, wonderful. You know, we have some great promotions for frequent shoppers here, and I'd love to make sure that before you leave, that you are aware of the promotions we have, should you decide to make a purchase today. Is that okay?
Yes. How long
So
would
to
that take?
me, huh?
I said yes. How long would that take?
No, just continue shopping and I'll let you know about that. So if you shopped with us before, I got promotion. If you haven't shopped with us before, I got promotions. As opposed to, oh, can I help you? No, okay. That's the end of that. So there's standard objections that you get all the time that you want to be prepared for. Hopefully that I hope that makes sense. Okay?
Tyrone.
Yes.
Yes, this is Maritza. I actually bought my first house during the holidays. I moved in 2 days after Christmas. I got some wonderful assistance from the seller, and a lot of sellers are motivated in during the season. So basically, because they want to move before the end of the year.
Right.
So it's a good idea for buyers to stay in the market.
That's
So I will
you
bring that point.
That's a very good. So let me ask you this. Okay. So, okay, I'm that person. So you said this was Melissa?
Maritza.
Okay. So, you're a great agent, but I don't think we're going to do anything till after the holidays. We got family coming in from out of town, and we fix a big meal and we get relatives from all around the country. So we're not going to do anything right now. Check back with me, say, oh, next April or May, okay?
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. But in May and April, there's a lot of people actually looking to buy properties. So this is a really good opportunity. And since you say you have relatives coming from out of the area to stay with you, basically you can get some of their input. I will even invite them to come over and chat with us.
Okay. Now, great conversation. Now let me drop this on you. So at the end of your sentences, you want to add tie downs. So with what you just said, then say to me, does that make sense? So just repeat what you just said, and then at the end of it say, does that sound like a good idea? Does that make sense? Okay, so tell me what you just told me, and then just put that on the end of it.
Yes, there's a lot of people that are looking to buy properties in the spring. So you have a lot of competition in the spring. So I want, to take advantage of the opportunities right now. I will just continue looking and see if something that fits your needs comes along, then basically take advantage of that. Does that make any sense?
Now that you're saying that, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, it does. All right, so what she did was she added a tie down to get confirmation as opposed to making a statement to me. Because I don't have to respond if it's a statement. I don't have to respond back. I don't have to answer her. I can just listen to her. So many times as real estate professionals, we want to hone our craft because we want to be conscious of this, of using actual scripts, dialogues, and closes. The other thing too, she could have used a technique which was pain or pleasure, but I don't want to teach scripting tonight because I want to get into stay with making offers. However, I want to show you why that's so valid. Why that's so valid. Again, just because you have an opportunity with a buyer or a seller, it doesn't mean it turns into an appointment or a closing. Your scripts and your dialogues help you get there. That's like huge. That is very important, okay? Because I've seen two agents have the same opportunity, and the agent that was more professionally trained had more of a command of their scripts, their dialogues, their techniques. A lot of times they would get that business. So you don't want to rely on happenstance, okay? So thanks for role playing that with me. I really appreciated that. And let's continue on to present offers. So we're going to continue on present offers.
Hey, Coach.
Yes.
Hey, there's one that's in the chat from Min and Amanda, I'm sorry. And it says, one of the most common objections I've been hearing is that someone wants to wait until the prices come down. How would you respond to that?
Well, you know, Annette, I can certainly appreciate that you want to wait until the prices come down. And thanks for being so transparent and so open with me. And I think that's a good thing to think about. You know, and I think we need to look at it a couple of ways as well. So let's say that, I don't know, because none of us have a crystal ball. So just out of curiosity, when would you think that would be?
I would think in June or July.
Okay. So right now you're thinking that the prices will come down in the peak buying season when most people buy a home?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's a little, you know, historically, that's a little contrary to how the market typically works. And especially right now, since we have historical lows of inventory. There's never been a time in history when there's been this least amount of inventory ever in the history of real estate. And right now, we're not seeing anything that's going to change that dramatically from any of the real estate economists, real estate CEOs. None of them are predicting that we're going to have a dramatic decrease in prices in the spring market. None of them are predicting that. Let me ask you this. One thing that we're starting to see, though, that's happening, suppose interest rates started to increase. Then how much home would you be able to afford if interest rates increase? That's anyone's guess.
Yeah.
Now, what are we seeing right now? The big thing on the news is that inflation is out of control. How much is gas now? Gas has gone up almost $1 a gallon. Milk has gone up 30 cents in the store. Beef has gone up by more than $1. Toilet paper has gone up dramatically. If your car had to go to the shop, the prices there have gone up dramatically because the supply chain right now basically is broken. So you're waiting for parts. How much are restaurants charging now? That same hamburger that used to be $16 rather, is $20 now. Because guess what? They have to pay their employees more money if they can find them. So all of the indicators that we're seeing in that right now, it doesn't look like it points toward that. And I don't know how much more you would probably want to pay for a home. I doubt if you would want to spend anything additionally by just gambling, would you?
No.
Okay, so why don't we go ahead and do the right thing? Let's go ahead and get active in the marketplace right now, Annette, and let's see if we can find that right home for you and your family. That does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, beautiful. So I'm excited. I'm going to be making sure that we can get together. So let's get together tomorrow between, say, 1 and 2, or either tomorrow between 5 and 6. Which would you prefer?
Between 5 and 6.
Okay. So I want to thank you for that objection that we've hearing that someone wants to wait till prices come down. All right. One of the things you got to remember is the price could possibly come down, but by the same token, interest rates could go up. Interest rates have been historically low for like close to 10 years. That's not going to keep happening. We all know that. And if you look around, everything has gone up. Everything is going up. Interest rates probably will too. Let people know, typically when interest rates go down, they typically go down in quarters. And when they go up, they typically go up in halves. That's a big gamble. I don't know if they want to take that. Okay. But thank you for that. I really appreciate you putting that in the chat. So if you have anything else, Annette, do this for me if you don't mind. Can you monitor the chat for me as I go through this? Do you mind?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And that came actually from Min and Amanda Ong.
Okay, beautiful. All right, I see one of them on the screen. Did that help you guys?
Yeah, it did. It did help me. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a lot of, a lot of folks that are, millennial aged, they saw what the housing prices were when their, parents and stuff were buying homes, and now that they're in a position that they're ready to move into a house themselves or move into property ownership, they're scared by what's happened due to coronavirus. So they're thinking, that some sort of bubble's coming, that they're going to see another housing crash, and they want to capitalize on that. And that's why they're so hesitant to jump into the market.
Yeah, I think what we may see, I think once interest rates start to go up, what you're going to see is, I think you're going to see a lot more buyers start to jump back into the marketplace because they don't want to pay the higher rates, and they're going to be afraid the interest rates are going to keep increasing. And if we look at historically, I've been in real estate long enough that when I got into real estate, interest rates were 10.5%, 10.5, double digits. And guess what? That's going to come back around because real estate is cyclical. It's going to happen again. So thanks for those questions. All right, I'm gonna keep pushing, and let's move to, let's move to notify the listing agent of an incoming offer. Never take for granted that you just send an offer in and that the agent either received it or the agent has reviewed the offer. Always call behind your offers. If you're going to send an offer to a listing agent, call them. Some agents never acknowledge that they even received your offer, which to me, I don't really feel that that's really professional. All right. So if someone writes on your listing, always respond back. Thank the agent for writing on your listing. Okay. And if you're on the side where you're presenting an offer, you're sending an offer over, call the listing agent. Okay, we talked about set a deadline, created the offer in command, consult with your buyer when the seller responds, and consult promptly, because this market is moving extremely quickly. You can lose having your offer accepted by a matter of minutes in some cases. And certainly days are way too long, way too long. All right. What was the next one? Role model, presenting the offer. I don't know if we're going to do that. We don't have a lot of time. I'm going to go through this a little bit more with you in terms of representing the seller. Now, if you're representing the seller and you receive the offer, it says gather the information about the buyer. Present the offer to your client. Present it promptly. Never feel because another agent has written on your listing that that offer is going to be there permanently. I've seen people write on a listing. Let's say that they wrote this evening around 5 o'clock. The buyer's agent submits it to the listing agent. The listing agent has not presented it tomorrow. It's Friday. Hasn't presented it Friday. Some buyers get panicked when they haven't heard anything right away. Remember, some people are buying a home for the very first time. They're not used to delays and waiting to hear a response. They're excited. Their emotions are in this. Just because you have an offer today for a seller doesn't mean you have it tomorrow. Because all they have to do is contact you and they can formally withdraw. Now, how would that seller feel if that seller knew you had an offer for their property, but it wasn't presented promptly, and it was probably an offer that they would have accepted? Not a good place to be, right? So anytime you ever have any purchase agreement that's written on your listing, present it. Now, some agents have this thing where they're holding offers. All offers will be presented next Wednesday at close of business at 5 o'clock. Now, if the seller has given you those instructions, then, that seller is your client. So if they've given you those instructions, that's a different story, but don't arbitrarily do those things on your own. Okay. I believe in letting sellers know about offers as they come in. Okay, now that's not everybody's, it's not everybody's take, but that's what I would share with you.
Hey, Coach, there's a question in the chat from Gemma. It says, if an EMD or earnest money deposit check is issued from a personal bank account, does it have to come from the account of the parties to the transaction?
Well, on something like that, I would say you really want to check with the lending institution that's going to do the financing, because banks typically want to know where the money is coming from. Because in many cases, they want to make sure that that EMD isn't money that was borrowed, that has to be paid back, because then that could affect that person's debt to income ratio. So I would say check with the financial institution. If it's somebody's parents, their aunt, their uncle, and it's going to be a gift letter, then that needs to be documented of where they got the money. So it's got to be documented. So check with the financial institution to see what their guidelines are. So great question. Great question. All right, review the offer. Make sure there aren't any questions or surprises. Make sure that the address is the correct house. Remember, I told you about the agent that sold the wrong condo, and it actually closed and went to settlement. And the people who bought it weren't happy because there was some more behind the story, but I don't want to go into all of that. I'll just say that this agent sold the wrong property, and the property was in terrible condition. The people thought they were buying a property in great condition. The agent made a mistake on the address. All right. The other thing, price. Check to see whether the offer falls in the range of the seller's expectations. We talked about the EMD. We talked about that. You want to have an EMD that is an EMD that would hopefully make the seller really, really want to stand up and take notice of this offer. And hopefully, if the other terms are acceptable, accept the offer. Okay. Please remember that that EMD is not going to the seller. It's going to go for the buyer in terms of reducing what they need to bring to closing. Okay. Pre-approval. Verify that the buyer is pre-approved by the lender. I always recommend that you vet any offers that come in on any listing that you have. If you're the listing agent, I don't care that there's a pre-approval letter. I'm still calling that loan officer. And I basically ask them and I say, hi, Roger, hey, this is Tyrone over at KWPP. And I'm super excited to see that you've pre-approved Janet and Susie Jackson, the two sisters. And I wanted to make sure that we're going to be able to get this to the table. So let me ask you this, Roger, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how good do you feel about us being able to close on this? But sometimes you'll be surprised at what you hear. Sometimes you'll hear, well, you know, Tyrone, I'd say it's probably a 7. Oh, okay. So Roger, just out of curiosity, why is it not a 10? Well, you know, Susie had an outstanding student loan that's not in deferment, and she had a medical bill, but she says she has the money to pay that off. So once we get a letter that she's paid that off, that could boost it and she could be higher. Now, that's good information to know. So suppose I have 5 other offers. Would I probably be looking at accepting that offer, having the seller accept that offer first, if that's the one they choose? Now, had I not made that call, I may not know that information, but the loan officer still issued the pre-approval letter. I've seen buyers rather have pre-approval letters, and based on their credit profile and money saved, I couldn't believe that they ever had a pre-approval letter. So I would recommend that you vet regardless of whether someone has a pre-approval letter, especially when we're in a market where a seller could have multiple offers and they select an offer that you had not vetted and they had 4 other people that were better qualified. And now they've taken their house off the market. We've gotten into this long process, find out we got a bunch of credit issues. lack of money saved, and guess what? Now we've lost all of this time and the seller has to put their home back on the market. All right. It also says, make sure that you have a specific date for a formal and final loan approval. In other words, that buyer has received a written loan commitment in writing. So please make sure that when you have buyers, that you have the lender send them a written loan commitment. That's that lender's guarantee that they're going to fund that loan. That's their guarantee that they're going to fund it. So there should be no outstanding contingencies, shouldn't be an outstanding appraisal. It means that person is good to go. Quick story. I had a seller. I was selling their house, and actually this was even before, wow, you hate to date yourself. This was even before buyer agency in this area. Buyer agency came about in the DMV area around 1999. Prior to that, everybody represented the seller. So anyway, I have the listing. I actually wind up getting the buyer for the listing. Happy day. I've got everything. Everything is going great. The sellers whom I was working with, they were buying another house. The lady moved out of the house to a senior citizen development. Everything is going great. I'm a week away from closing. I get a call from the loan officer, and the loan officer says that the buyer doesn't qualify. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you sent her a loan commitment letter. He said, yeah, we did. However, we were counting her part-time job that she's worked for the last 5 years. And we were counting that to qualify her. Guess what? She quit her job this week. So she no longer has that income. So now this means the seller whom I'm representing, they are buying this other lady's house, and now they can't buy that house because they were using the proceeds from the sale of their house to buy that house. And now this is going to be a domino effect. So all of these transactions are going to fall. Now, what actually wound up happening in the end, I couldn't believe that she quit her job 1 week away from closing. However, I had to go down to that financial institution, talk to the vice president there, and go through a lot of back and forth and back and forth. And the point that I brought up and I took to them was the fact that they issued a loan commitment letter. So my argument was, you reran her credit and found out that she quit that job. However, you should have never issued the loan commitment letter prior to checking. And they actually had high-level conversations, and they stood behind the fact that they issued that loan commitment letter because we had it in writing. So having a loan commitment letter in writing is really important. Okay, so make sure that you get loan approval letters, the commitment letters, actually the commitment letter in writing. All right, let's move down. We were talking about, let's talk about the closing date. Make sure that that date will work for everyone. Sometimes the closing date can be the thing that can either make or break a contract of sale. If you got a seller that needs a longer date and you can write it that way, because sometimes you have people that are in an apartment and they're willing to go maybe even month to month if their lease would be up if they know they're going to get that house. So sometimes they'll give that seller additional time. Sometimes you have a seller that has an emergency, has urgency. They need to close within 30 days or less. And sometimes they'll take a little bit less money depending if you can turn that property over quickly, get them to closing and they can get out of there. That can make the difference. All right. Home warranties. The other thing, be careful because so many properties are being sold as is. So I would really talk to buyers about home warranty protection plans. I really would, especially when you're buying something as is. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that they cover all pre-existing conditions because generally they don't. However, something else could go wrong. All right. I had an experience myself with that. I had been in real estate about, at that point, probably 4 years. And home warranties at that point weren't even a big thing. They weren't even in vogue that much. And I had a situation where I had taken an expired listing, and actually I was on both ends of that transaction. I had the listing and the buyer, and we closed on the property. I had a great relationship with the buyer. She had like 3 kids, small age children. I closed with her on a Friday. She called me that Monday that the washer and the dryer both went out, both. And she called me about that. And she said, Tyrone, she said, the washer and the dryer are not working. I've got these 3 kids. I'm constantly washing clothes. So Tyrone, what can you do for me? Well, in the Washington Post, they have some coupons, some discount coupons for washers and dryers. You want me to clip out some coupons and send them to you? I don't think that's the answer she was looking for. So guess what? Was I obligated to put a washer and dryer in that property? No. But did I do it? Yes. Because we had a great business relationship, and the last thing I wanted was her to be disenchanted and tell other people about that. I want referrals. And my failure to even ask for a warranty, I felt really, I could have done a better job. So going forward, I just made it a practice. And I'm not saying that you have to do this. I did this because of that experience I had. I never wanted to have that experience again. So going forward, on any home I sold, if I couldn't get the seller to pay for a home warranty, I paid for it. Because if I get that phone call, I'd much rather say, well, you know what? Remember, we had the home warranty protection plan on that refrigerator. What model was that? Let me go ahead and get that called in for you. That's a totally different conversation, okay? So don't just blow off home warranties. All right, let's get to present the offer. All right, notify the seller, present the offer in person if possible. Now, we know with COVID has changed many things. However, when it comes to somebody receiving and accepting an offer, as long as I can present it in person, I'm presenting it in person. I'm not doing it over Zoom. I want to be sitting in that living room. I want to be reading body language, voice inflection, and facial expression. I want to be right there, okay? All right, because I don't want delays. If it's a great offer, I want them to be in a position to, let's lock this up. Let's make sure that you get this equity. Let's make sure you're able to achieve your goals. Because people that sell a property or sell a home, they sell because of their circumstances. And typically people's circumstances have changed. That's why they're selling. All right. So use command to communicate with the offer to the seller, update the CMA, put the offer into a perspective given the current market. So sometimes you have to like really keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. Not sometimes, all the time if you're a real estate professional. And many people that are buyers and sellers, they don't study the market like you do. That's why they hired you, because you're the local real estate economist of choice. And the thing that you want to see yourself as is not so much as a real estate salesperson. In my opinion, this is Tyrone, the world according to Tyrone, is you more want to see yourself as a consultant to help people make good decisions for them and their families. All right. So what we're talking about right here, we're talking about combining high tech with high touch. And somebody said, if you can combine high tech with high touch, you can rule the world. And the person that said it was Bill Gates. All right. So again, we're weaving consultative selling through relationship marketing. I'd write that down. Learn to do consultative selling through relationship marketing. I would write that down. Learn to combine high tech with high touch, and your business will explode. All right. Okay. All right. So we talked about present the offer, the price, any repairs. If you know the buyer's motivation, let the seller know that. Are there going to be any contingencies? Never have a buyer write a purchase agreement, and if it's contingent upon the sale of another property, please make sure that that is spelled out in that offer. That's not a come back later. That's a now. All right, what's the decision from the seller? Are they going to counter? Are they going to accept? Are they going to reject? Be prepared sometimes to advise sellers and buyers that a lot of times they don't ultimately get the exact thing that they want. Sometimes they don't get the exact price, either offering or seller receiving. Sometimes it's not the date that you want to go to settlement. Maybe this buyer has to be out of where they live in the next 30 days. So is that a fit for that seller? May not be. All right. So it's really interesting to get a meeting of the minds and to move people who may be miles apart, to move them together to consummate the sale. Somebody once said it's a great transaction when the seller feels that they could have gotten more and the buyer feels that they should have paid less, and you still get it done. So sometimes it works out that way. And the thing I would say to you again, I said it on the call last night, I highly recommend that you take a class on negotiation. I highly recommend that. That can go a very long way, especially if you get into a competitive situation where they are interviewing other agents. That seller is interviewing other agents, or that buyer is interviewing other agents, and you have certification or certificate from a course that you took. Some of these classes are just a day. I've taken negotiation classes, one of the best ones I ever took, and I took it from the same guy twice because I really like what he did. The material he gave out was just, I use it to this day. And I've coached other real estate agents and even shared the material with other agents as well, because he had a great multiple offer worksheet as well. So take a course or a class on negotiation. Many community colleges offer it. You can see now too, it doesn't have to be real estate. It doesn't matter. Negotiation is negotiation. Real estate just happened to be the product. Okay. All right. So that goes a long way. All right. Any questions on present the offer? Anybody? Any questions on present the offer? No? Okay. All right. We don't have that many more to go. Let's go to respond to the offer. All right. Here it is. You've got the counters of the offer. You've got the negotiation of the offer. And then you've got acceptance of the offer. It begins the contract price, rejects the offer. We spoke about that a little bit. I'm going to keep going. And I'm not going to get into this role play right now because we're at about 7:40. However, I would love for you to review your Ignite materials and role play this at home with someone in your home. Role play this where, let's say an offer has come in, and let's say the offer is, I don't know, let's just use a number and say it's $10,000 less than what that seller was expecting. And you had the buyer. And you're attempting to get that purchase agreement accepted. Or you could have the buyer, and the buyer could probably get that property if you could get them up another $10,000. Practice those scenarios because these are real life scenarios that you guys either have been dealing with or you will deal with. So you want to make sure you have a comeback position, you have techniques, dialogues, strategies. Now, look, we're not trying to play games to trick people or any of that. We're trying to help people make the right decision to get what they wanted to get. So we're not thinking about what we're going to make first. We're thinking about our client. So if you put your client's needs first, as Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you never have to worry about getting what you want. And if you get the opportunity to read anything from Zig Ziglar, Ziglar, Z-I-G-L-A-R, then guess what? Pick up his materials. All right, we got recap and ahas. I see somebody in a great camo outfit there. I had my camo outfit on today. We got a little commando on with us too. So welcome, Commando. Beautiful. Oh, he's waving. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-oh. That's a thumbs up there. So thumbs up. All right, we're almost to the end of this. So I would ask you this. How has anybody's thinking changed, or what ideas or mindsets were new for you tonight? Anybody had different thinking at all? What would you do, or how do you feel differently about what we did tonight? What was meaningful for you today? How will your behaviors be different going forward? What actions will you take going forward? What tools, models, or systems will you definitely use? How will they make you more accountable? Anybody want to share on any one of those four? Anybody?
I think your advice on how to handle objections to purchasing right away were valuable.
Okay, beautiful. That's something you plan on implementing. Who said that?
Sherry?
Oh, Sherry, okay. Sherry, any thought of what you're going to do to practice that, rehearse that, or what are your thoughts?
My daughter loves to tell me no, so I'm going to do some script practicing with her.
Okay, she gives some strong objections.
Oh yeah, she's 17. She would love to tell me no.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Anybody else? Anything from tonight's workshop, actually from tonight's Ignite, anything that you would do differently, any behaviors that would be different, any model systems or tools, whatever you'd like to share?
I agree with
Anything.
Sherry. The same thing, overcoming objections. The one piece that I liked was kind of bring it back to the forefront, reminded them why they wanted to purchase to begin with. I think that was a great tool. And then just kind of walking away with the mindset not to take no for an answer, or to make sure I get the appointment, and to, ask the follow-up questions to, what did you say? Ask the questions so they can, I forget how you said it, but you want their buy-in, so.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Now, sometimes too, that's a great point you bring up. And when you read the MREA, and one of the things that it talks about is closing. Remember, in real estate, you're in a business of closing. It's not about how many people you speak with or talk to. It's about your conversion ratio. All of you that are going on appointments, here's what I would say to you, whether it's buyer appointments or seller appointments. If you're going on buyer appointments, start tracking of the buyer consultations you have. How many people out of those consultations do you get under a signed buyer agency agreement? Start knowing your numbers. At Keller Williams, we press this to you guys all the time. Know your numbers. Numbers is the language of business. Numbers. Numbers is the language of business. Know your numbers. If you're going on listing consultations, how many of those people do you convert that you leave that appointment with the signed agreement? Also track how many people do you get the agreement signed the first time, not time number 3, 4, 5, 6, the first time. Know your conversion numbers. I'll leave you with this too. Anytime, especially on listing appointments, if a person lists with you, always ask why they chose you. If they don't list with you, always call back and ask, you know what, I'm always looking to get better, and I wanted to thank you for the opportunity, Corey, to come out and talk to you about selling your home. And Corey, I really appreciated you giving me that opportunity. And I know that you didn't select me. So Corey, just out of curiosity, so that I can continue to get better, what was the deciding factor in you choosing the other real estate agent? I'll listen. Some agents don't want to hear it because they are afraid of rejection and they don't want to hear that. So do you want to continue to go out on listing consultations, not get them, and you don't have an idea of why you're not getting them? Or if you are getting them, what are you doing well that you need to do more of to get even better at? So never be afraid to ask that question. Also, too, if you're going to go out in a listing consultation and they say to you, well, you know, we're probably not going to make a decision tonight because we're talking to 2 other companies. Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Okay, so Corey, thanks for being so transparent with me, Corey. I really appreciate that. And Corey, I know most of the real estate companies in the area and most of the real estate agents. Just out of curiosity, what companies are you interviewing? So ask, what companies are they interviewing? Because as a real estate business owner, you want to know who your competition is before you get there, not find out on the appointment. So find out who your competition is. And then 2, I'm going to research what my competition has versus what my company has. Now, I'm going to end this on this. This is the world according to Tyrone. Okay. And it's this. One of the biggest advantages that you have on any listing consultation that you go out on, no other real estate brokerage has 188,000 agents that seller's home can be exposed to, and no other real estate company is the #1 real estate brokerage in the world. So how can anybody be better than Keller Williams? So anybody they selecting that's not Keller Williams, they get #2, right? So all things being equal, why don't you go first class and go with #1? That is the type of person you are, isn't it? All right, I'm out. So I hope this has been helpful on this Veterans Day. And again, thank any of you that are veterans that are on the call. Want to thank you for your service. Want to thank you for your families allowing you to be in the service. So I'm going to sign off. I really enjoyed being on with you guys tonight. It's been a lot of fun with you guys, and that's all I can say. So enjoy your weekend. Have fun. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Good
Thanks, Rob.
night.
Good
Yeah.
night.